Hey, Dog Nation. Welcome to the Dawg House Podcast. We made it. Week 1 is here. Georgia versus Clemson. Great guest, Brian from the Clemson Football Live show. He gives his preview and prediction of Clemson. Also gives his score prediction for the Georgia versus Clemson game. Is this Garrett Riley's offense for Clemson this year and the overall direction of the Clemson football program? Also, I wanted to mention I made a printable 2024 Georgia football schedule for my mom. She's old school. She still likes to write down everything. Just wanted to make it available for you guys. Check out the link below. Please comment and give your thoughts. This is great for your girlfriend to wonder where you are on Saturdays, your grandma, your grandpa, your cousin, anybody who would enjoy Georgia football schedule. Go Dogs, and week 1 is here. All right, week 1 is here. Welcome to the Dawg House Podcast. Been excited about this guest coming on. We got Brian from Clemson Football Live and Bobby Dirkens. How are we doing today, Brian?
Man, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Big time matchup. First off, wanted to jump in real quick just because he used to play for you guys. What happened to Florida State this past Saturday? I just wanted to say it was DJU. I know he used to play for you guys, but I see him as a Jag, just another guy. So what's your thoughts on the Nerds beating Florida State?
Oh, the Nerds beating Florida State. I laughed. I cried. I laughed or I cried until I laughed and backwards. That really didn't make sense. No, I mean, it wasn't all on DJ as much as that's the low-hanging fruit. Oh, yeah. He's getting a lot of blame, but if you watched, I believe it was the first offensive play that Georgia Tech ran, their offensive line shoved Florida State's defensive line like 4 or 5 yards that way. Oh, yeah. And I went, whoa, that looked like a decent FCS defensive line, not someone who supposedly went and got all of these great players out of the portal and recruited decent. So it's easy to pick on DJ. But Florida State as a whole lost that football game.
Yeah, for sure. I think it kind of brought them down to earth, and it might have been they were more distracted in the offseason talking about suing everybody. And, I know we didn't play all our starters in the game against Georgia, so I think it might have been some more distractions. But Mike Norvell, I think he's like 31-18. He's got it cut out. He's got I don't know. I keep saying I like doing the whole coaching thing. I say, hey, Deion might be hanging around, maybe looking for a job. If he goes 8-4, 7-5 this year, Florida State, you never know.
Yeah, you never know with the athletic departments what they might do. I think that is a great point. Deion would take that job like that. Especially if one of his sons makes it to the NFL and he doesn't want to be at Colorado anymore. And I would not be shocked if in the next couple of years we saw Deion Sanders on the sideline at Florida State coaching. Now, a lot of people loves Deion, and then there's a lot of people who dislikes Deion. I mean, it's the same thing that my approach with him is the same as it is with even the team that I pull for. The truth is the truth, no matter if I don't like it, right? And so Deion was an incredible athlete. I think one of the best athletes to ever play football, and he's a legend. When it comes to coaching, he is a figurehead, and he knows how to market certain products, and he knows how to build hype. But we know that once you get it to a certain level of college football, I mean, take Kirby Smart. Let's take Dabo Swinney. I really refer more to Dabo Swinney during that 2014 to 2019 era. Right. But you take those two guys, when you get to the level of college football that they were in and that Georgia is still in, you're going to play incredible football teams who, from top to bottom, can play, has developed their players, and they can scheme. They can make in-game adjustments. And at that moment, slogans and hype and all that bunch of stuff, it doesn't matter. So I think that Deion is fantastic at building hype. I think he's really good for a job like Jackson State or maybe Colorado. But getting into Florida State, I think it would wear off in a couple of seasons, and they'd probably be like, "What have we done?" We need someone who can actually come in here and coach and lead the team. So it'll be interesting to see if any of this ever comes to pass.
Completely agree, and I think Florida State fans after last weekend would definitely need some of our sponsor of the show, Viva Tequila Seltzer.com. 0 carbs, 0 sugar. One of my personal favorites is the watermelon. They also have huckleberry, grapefruit, great for tailgate, great for at the beach, your round of golf, 18 holes. So definitely check it out for 20% off. Dawg House 20. Again, that's 20% off. Dawg House 20. Viva Tequila Seltzer.com for second year. Great sponsor of the show. So jumping right into it. Georgia, Clemson. I actually was looking at the rivalry of this, and I know they're so close together. What is it, about 60, 80 minutes, something like that? Or I forget how close they were, maybe even closer. And they used to play back in the 80s and 90s. And Georgia's, I was surprised, I'm just doing a little research, has actually won like 7 of 8. I didn't realize that. And I just didn't realize it. And I know they used to play all the time. Very close game. I went to that game in 2021 in Charlotte, and I kind of feel like they're kind of going both ways. But just looking recently, I mean, you guys dominated in the 80s over us, winning that national title. But always been a really close series, and I think everyone always wondered why, we haven't played more. But just wanted to see your thoughts. Do you think that the programs are kind of going in 2 separate ways? And I think it kind of went back to Georgia winning that 2021 game. It was definitely a close defensive battle, 10-3, got a pick 6. But just wanted to see your thoughts on kind of where the programs are going.
Yeah, I mean, I think, all right, let me go ahead and give my preface. I'm a huge Clemson fan, grew up right outside of Clemson, love my Tigers. And when I say I grew up right outside of Clemson, I mean right outside of Clemson. And it's part of the community that I'm part of. It's not just a school that, I enrolled in and got a degree, which I didn't go to school there. But my point is, it's almost like a family affair for me. So it's tough to tell the truth, and the bigger the fan you are, the more emotionally charged you are. But unfortunately, right now, for us Clemson fans, and fortunately for you Georgia fans, I believe that Georgia is the face of college football right now, namely Kirby Smart. And I believe that he is doing something there that we've only seen Saban do. We saw Dabo Swinney doing it, but Dabo Swinney has made some decisions over the past 5 years that it's the reason the offense is in the place that it's in. As far as direction of each program, again, Georgia's the front runner for the national championship right now. And it's no surprise. They're strong. They recruit well. They're coaching well. Even with a very tough SEC schedule and adding opponents in like Texas and Oklahoma just into the conference, whether they have to play them or not, they are still the favorite. So you see the dominance. You see the dominance in recruiting, in coaching. I was shocked that Bobo did as well as he did last year. I knew that a lot of people gave me stats about, he averaged this many points per game and blah, 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 blah. Todd Monken was unbelievable. Todd Monken, in my opinion, is one of the best current offensive minds in sports. And now he's with the Ravens, and we saw how well he did in the NFL. It's crazy. A lot of guys goes to the NFL and they fail, and vice versa. They come to the college game, they fail. Todd Monken back to back just put on a clinic on how to coach, how to make adjustments and win. Clemson, on the other hand, Clemson's got to stop beating Clemson. Clemson has to stop defeating themselves. And for some of your listeners who are like, what's this crazy Tiger talking about? Let me lay this out. If you look at our offensive and defensive coaching staff, it looks like 2 different people hired for those units. So if you go to the defensive side of the ball, You have a lot of guys who's had multiple stops. They've had really good experience. Some of them has been in the NFL. A lot of them are highly respected over, whatever position they coach, like Nick Eason. We brought Nick Eason back. He was at Auburn. He was in the NFL. He played at Clemson a long time ago, but the guy had multiple stops. He's highly respected, brought him back home. It makes sense. Guys like Mike Reed coaching our DBs. The guy is unbelievable. He was at NC State before. He's been at Clemson for the entirety of this great run that we've had, and up until the past few years. So there's guys like him. Then you go to Wes Goodwin. He's our defensive coordinator. Now, granted, he's never been a defensive coordinator before, but this guy has been praised by some of the greatest minds and best minds in college football and sports. I mean, Bruce Arians talked about how brilliant the guy is. So he gets the keys to the car from Brent Venables, and he hasn't wrecked the car. Our defense is still recruiting at a high level. We're still performing at a high level. And if you ever see us do poorly, it's because the offense went out and did something boneheaded. On the other side, if you look at the coaching hires up until the past year and a half, our offense looks like someone totally different hired. And it was almost like, what's the criteria for hiring for the offense? Well, did they play at Clemson? Yes. Did they possibly play in the NFL? Yes. Have they ever said anything nice about Clemson? Yes, you're hired. Right. And that happened over and over again. Before Garrett Riley was brought on, Trey, you need to notice this. Our former offensive coordinator, who I think is still an analyst for y'all, Brandon Streeter might have moved on, I don't know, but I know he was an analyst for you last year.
Right.
He played quarterback at Clemson. He did go on and have some coaching roles at, I think, Richmond and maybe one other place, but he came back to Clemson. He was the quarterback's coach. When Tony Elliott left, took the job at Virginia, Brandon Streeter becomes our offensive coordinator. That was the very same year that DJ took over as the quarterback. All right. Clemson fired him after 1 year. And this guy had been in the program for a while. At the same time, C.J. Spiller, great athlete, loves Clemson. C.J. seems like a great guy. I will not pick at him that much, but he had never coached before. He's running backs coach at Clemson. Tyler Grisham, a guy who was very talented, wide receiver, played for Clemson, went to the NFL for a little bit. Who did they replace Jeff Scott with? Tyler Grisham. We've had problems with the wide receivers, but we really don't know if maybe you could blame it on the offensive line because the offensive line's not giving our quarterback enough time. And the receivers to break out of their stems and so on. You get where I'm going here. But he had never coached anywhere but Clemson. He never had any coaching experience that I know of except for Clemson. Then you go to the offensive line. Matt Luke just hired him to replace a former Clemson player who his only coaching experience, I think, was 2 years at Georgia State in some role. This entire coaching staff on the offensive side has, until recently, has been absolutely laughable. And the on-field results speaks for itself. Once again, the defense performs very well. The offense, anemic and has no identity. And when you look at the coaching, you can really start there, and it just makes sense. It just makes sense. So if I'm a Georgia fan and I'm like, is it the transfer portal and is it NIL and blah, blah, that's low-hanging fruit, and that's the easiest excuse. But this actually goes back to about 2019 when certain hires started to be made. And it was like, if you played at Clemson and you might have said something nice about Clemson, maybe you were fortunate enough to make it to the NFL for a few years, you can come back and coach at Clemson. It doesn't matter if you know what you're doing or not. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I love all the breakdown on that. Very, very knowledgeable. I will say Matt Luke was a great hire. And I had Mason Short, who's a big-time four-star commit. Loved him. Ended up committing to Georgia. He's from Evans. My nephew played lacrosse there. Love Matt Luke because of that relationship. Chris Rump. Actually, I know his brother here in Charlotte. We used to work out together at one of the fitness connections here. So we were always texting about it. They were all together. He sent me a picture at the Masters. They were all playing. Dabo was there with Chris Rump and his brother. So anyway,
really?
Small world. So definitely really good hires. My other question I wanted to, and then some people are saying, is this going to be Garrett Riley's offense this year? Because it seems like some other people had their hands in the kitchen last year. So I want to get your thoughts on that on the offense.
You're asking some great questions, and all of these I can talk for a very long time about. We don't know, right, as Clemson fans. We really don't know who was running the show last year. Right. Coach Swinney was asked about it, and his reply was, Garrett's not on a short leash. And you're like, well, a leash is a leash. So you could be a long leash, but it's still a leash. And then he went on to allude in some form of saying that he had to learn Clemson's offense. Well, let's back the trolley up for some of your viewers here. Let's talk about Garrett Riley. We know who his brother is. Garrett Riley's only been coaching professionally for about 12 years, maybe 13. He's a younger guy, I think around 34, and he's had a meteoric rise. Stops at Kansas, Appalachian State, SMU. Of course, he was at TCU for 1 year, gets him to the national championship. Of course, y'all absolutely drug them 65-7. He couldn't even get, over 200 yards, didn't even reach the 200-yard mark. But Clemson brings him in, and it just looks so mundane. And so we know that Garrett Riley is an opportunist. He wants to be a head coach, and you can't blame him. His brother has done it. But he comes in, and the offense just looks just weird. There's no creativity. And then there's rumors that Dabo was helping call plays. Pause there for any of your viewers who has absolutely no clue about Dabo. Dabo was a wide receiver coach. Mm-hmm. And when he was hired as the head coach, everybody was shocked. What is former AD Terry Don Phillips doing? He fires Tommy Bowden, and the interim is the wide receiver coach? What's up with this? Right. Well, I mean, it ended up working out quite well.
Oh yeah.
But the truth is he's not a big X's and O's guy. He's even talked about this in the past. So the question is, riddle me this, Batman. Why do you fire someone who, though they've only been the offensive coordinator for 1 year, but they've been in your program and they're an alum for many years? Why do you fire them? Hire one of the best offensive coordinators in the country to come run your offense, but you, who's never called plays, are helping call plays, supposedly. Doesn't make sense. Right. So if you sit and you watch Clemson's offense, it never made sense. Never made sense last year. And then the answers when he was questioned about Riley. Well, he's got to learn something along the lines of he's got to learn Clemson's offense. Well, why? Because the offense was terrible. Why do you want to learn that? In fact, you should run from that like a bad dream. We need to forget this. Any semblance of this needs to be forgotten. Also, when Garrett Riley was coming to Clemson, everyone was talking about how Clemson had better athletes than TCU. On paper, blue chip wise. I mean, it's just like, obviously. Well, after the offense started looking like trash last year, there were excuses being made of, well, you got to understand that Garrett doesn't have the athletes that he needs to run his offense. Excuse me? Which is it? And so for some people who are like, well, yeah, your offense was trash and you need to go after 4- and 5-star players. Our offensive line is full of 4-star players and 1 5-star. It's just been that bad between injuries and a lack of development. So so this whole question about Garrett Riley is still something that's tossed around in the Clemson community. Of course, the good old boys that Clemson can do no wrong, and they're always taken up for whatever because they think that makes them a good person or something. Naive loyalty is what I like to call it. There's nothing virtuous about it. In fact, it's quite the opposite. They don't want to talk about this. They believe that everything has been worked out. But I'm telling you, the biggest reason why I am feeling like, and probably a spoiler of one of your questions you're going to ask me, Trey, I really don't think Clemson. I have predicted Clemson loses this ball game, and I haven't even done my preview just for this game. But I've given. Long day. Sorry, forgive me for that. No, I've given my preseason prediction for Clemson. And I said this Georgia game is a downright loss. It's a loss. how can I be so for sure about that? Do I want it to be a loss? Of course not. But our offense is so anemic.
Right.
Our offense has proven nothing. And everybody can sit here and take shots at Cade Klubnik all they want to, but who they really, really need to start looking at is the offensive coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
Years past, and who put them there, and go from there. But who knows who will be calling plays? Who knows who will be responsible for the offensive game plan against you guys? But I will tell you this, and I made this prediction yesterday. In fact, I did a video yesterday talking about Garrett Riley. Is this a make or break for him? Not only for Clemson, but for his career. And I said that if this season is anything like last year, he and his inner circle are going to get together and they're going to find a way out of Clemson, because this would be the worst performance he's ever put on in the entirety of his young yet meteoric career. So,
wow, it's like a hot mic drop there.
Yeah, well, there's some mics I don't like to drop, but it's you either lie or you tell the truth, and that's one of them.
I like great breakdown and analysis, like they're deep dive into that. I really like it. Jumping right into it, we'll do a little preview here. So we got Georgia versus Clemson, 13.5 point spread. It's kind of moved a little bit. I think it opened at like 14. Mercedes-Benz. Another quick question for you. How about this 12 o'clock kickoff? I was a little annoyed at first, but I got over it the last couple of months. But what's your thoughts on that? I can kind of see it's all about ESPN, but ABC, I don't like it. But what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I was a little irritated over it as well. The rumor is they're trying to ESPN, ABC is trying to go head to head with Fox. What is that? Oh, yeah. Big noon kickoff.
Right.
Which, by the way, I love competition in the market, because it creates a better product for the viewer. And I thought that Fox, this is kind of off the subject, on the subject, I thought Fox did a heck of a job really stepping in and doing what they've done so far. So hopefully ESPN and ABC will step up. But I think that a lot of it has to do with that and trying to compete with that. I think that a lot of people would actually enjoy watching Georgia and Clemson a lot more than Notre Dame and Texas A&M. So it's just really interesting. I think that if Clemson's offense had their act together and was playing more like the defense with the intensity, this would probably be a 5-point toss-up differential in the game, and it might have got an 8 o'clock kickoff or something like that. But it was very interesting. It was a head scratcher,
especially having Clemson ranked 14th, Georgia ranked 1. It's the most highly ranked between two teams, but is what it is. It at least gets your Saturday, gets it over with all the stress. So around 3:30 or 4, you can either you're happy cracking a cold one or whatever. So yeah, looking at the matchup. So it's going to be second year in the system for Garrett Riley. I know you mentioned him. Got Cade Klubnik coming back. Got Phil Mappa, who's impressive running back. Got Matt Luke, who I know he can't come in and make miracles, but he's going to be able to hopefully improve the O-line. Your D-line is great. Coming from the Georgia side, where hand-wringing is, we don't know if Trevor Etienne is going to play. Kirby's being very coy. So if he doesn't play, we got Roger Robinson's out with a turf toe. So you got Branson Robinson coming off a knee injury, tore like 2 ligaments. They're going to put him on a pitch count. Nate Frazier, who's turning heads, but you still got a true freshman, and you got 3 other freshmen, Cash Jones, preferred walk-on. So from a Georgia fan, I'm like, I hope we're not going to try to run it at you. We might do a lot of dinking and dunking. Carson Beck, supposedly one of the better quarterbacks. I will say I'm pumping the brakes on the whole, Carson Beck. I'm not sure about putting him in New York yet. I know he had a good year last year, but, if you look at his numbers, they're pretty good numbers. I want to say okay, but, 26 touchdowns, 9 picks. He had 3,000 yards. Like, you got to get maybe that 35 to 40 touchdowns, over 4,000 yards to get to. So a lot of questions. Got a good O-line, but I might match up with that. So I'll go ahead and make my pick here. You guys are going to hang around, and don't be surprised. I'll make this. Here's my little bold statement. Georgia is infamous last year giving up a touchdown on first drive. Don't be surprised if Georgia gives up 7. It's almost like we just need to go ahead and give you 7. You guys are going to hang around. I don't think you guys cover. Or I'm sorry, I don't think Georgia covers. So I would take Clemson in the points, but I'm going to say 1-score game to the 4th. We got a little bit more depth. Cade Klubnik might turn the ball over. I'm going to go 30-17. But you guys are going to hang around and make it close. We're going to have a lot of hand-wringing, and hopefully we can get out with no injuries. But that's my pick.
30-17. We score 17 points.
Yeah.
In my head, I'm going, so the defense scores 14 points? This is great. That's actually realistic to a point that our defense would actually do that, because I cannot overstate how much our defense has kept us in games. It'll be interesting to see how y'all approach us, because even though we lost Tyler Davis, Rook, Xavier Thomas across the front, of course we lost Nate Wiggins in the secondary and Andrew Makuba to Texas, which he was hurt most of last year, so he really didn't play that much. And we have guys who got experience because of that. It ended up working itself out. Really, the strength is our front 7. Right. The strength of Clemson is the front 7. And last year we had true freshman Peter Woods, who, listen to this, he played defensive tackle last year. Wow. 6'2", 315. We have now moved him to defensive end. He's that big, but he's that quick.
Wow. I heard good things.
Yeah. I saw him in his spring game, and he was only 4 months removed from high school. Wow. And I mean, I saw when Clemson won the national championship in 2018. I saw Christian Wilkins. I saw Austin Bryant. I saw Dexter Lawrence and those guys play in person, and I am telling you, he looked as every bit of intimidating as those guys did, and he was 4 months removed from high school. I mean, he was different. Of course, TJ Parker. TJ Parker's the other defensive end. We got Kate Parton in the middle. He's a big human being. Y'all know what it's like to have a bunch of massive human beings on the front that's strong and they can move.
Right.
When we go to our linebacker core, you have Barrett Carter. Barrett Carter in the preseason last year, he was predicted to go in the first round. He really didn't have the season that he wanted. Jeremiah Trotter actually had a better season than he did. Barrett Carter was the one who infamously said after the Duke game, it was a statement that turned a lot of heads, was, "Hey, I was in shape, but I was not in game shape." And that really kind of shook up Clemson fans, because it's like, well, yeah, there's a difference between being in shape and game shape. But how is it that a guy who was projected our highest pick in the upcoming draft could say that, and that he would be out of game shape, but the nerds of Duke could be in shape? Nothing makes sense, Of course, Wade Wood he's a linebacker. I want to say off the top of my head, he's a junior. Guy can play. He's solid. We'll see Sammy Brown, the big recruit that we got. He'll be playing, I think, a lot. I don't know if he'll start, but he'll be playing a lot. I haven't seen the depth chart, so I might have missed that there. We've had some injuries in the secondary. Shelton Lewis, he's a true sophomore guy. It came out of nowhere last year due to injuries to other players. Stepped up, had some incredible interceptions. Avion Terrell, he's AJ Terrell from the Falcons, former Clemson player. Most infamously picked off Tua and ran it back for the touchdown in the championship game that we beat Alabama by 4 touchdowns back in 2018. His brother, Avion Terrell, is playing for us. He's doing well. Khalil Barnes, a guy that last year, from his spring game to his very last game of the season, he just put on a clinic as a true freshman. We're looking for guys like Tavoy Fagan. He's a early enrollee. The guy put on a clinic in the spring game. He had an interception. He dropped 2 interceptions, so he was in the right place, just dropped the interceptions. A lot of people is comparing him to, like, his breakout spring game to Khalil Barnes. So we're looking forward to seeing him play. Corian Gibson, he's a true freshman. Now he was not an early enrollee, but the guy, he's got a lot of there's a lot of good things about him. So if y'all try to attack us over top, we do have, I think, a fifth-year senior, R.J. Mickens, back there. He's the old man of the group. He's the quarterback of the group. You know, he's going to be yelling at the young guys like, hey, you can't do stupid stuff against a team like this. And so that's kind of where our hope is at. I always go back to it's our offense. You know, we're worried about the offense, but if y'all try to run the ball, I think that we'll stand up pretty well against it. I think it'll be a heck of a game. That will be the part of the game that will be worth watching. But it's just, I'm just sitting there looking at the offense going, hey, we've got some good players here and there. Of course, the two new true freshmen. You mentioned Maffa. Maffa is 6'1", 230. He creates his own holes. I mean, the guy is just a beast. And he's not slow, but he's not super fast. But he's a guy that once he breaks through the line, you're like, hold on, he's quicker than I thought he would be. Right. You know, we expect y'all to adjust to him and just stack the box and say, Cade, you gotta lead the team and make our offensive coordinator, whoever that may be, right, to actually scheme against y'all. So that's where I am afraid that we lose the ball game. It's just a lack of offensive creativity, becoming one-dimensional, and then just becoming predictable.
Could you give us a quick pick real quick, Brian? I hate to put you on the spot. I know you'll have it on your show, Clemson Football Live. Hey, make sure to subscribe. That's free. So can you make another pick for us?
Oh my God. I haven't done my pick for this yet, but hey, I'll do it. I'll do it on here. I don't care. I'm leaning more towards the game will be, maybe I'll do reach 30 points, but I'm leaning somewhere around 30-10.
Okay.
24-10, somewhere in there. I think y'all win by 2 touchdowns. If we come in and we play really well and the offense doesn't do a bunch of stupid stuff, we could see a closer game. We could see a 17-10 game, a 17-13 ball game. But if our offense comes out there and they're anything like they've been over the past 3 years, even though we've changed coordinators, you guys could beat us by 3 touchdowns plus. And it would get ugly quick. So, and it won't, and again, it would not be because of the defense. Our defense, if you ever see them perform poorly, like a few years ago when we went up to Notre Dame, looked like a bunch of lackeys, that was not on the defense. The offense continuously turned the ball over like deep in their own territory. So all Notre Dame has to do is sneeze good and they fall into the end zone. So a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, Notre Dame beat the trash out of you. And it's like, you didn't watch the game, did you? It wasn't the defense, it was offense. So that's my main concern. That's my main concern for this game. It's just the offense and its lack of creativity and mistakes.
It's going to be a good one. I appreciate you making the pick there. I think it's going to be a close one. So it's going to be very competitive. And then, Brian, really appreciate you coming on. How do we follow you on social media and all the channels? Got you here on College Football Live. I got you at 4,000 subscribers, which is impressive. Also, check out Bobby Dirkens too. I believe he's over 5,000 on that. Alter Ego Brian. That's an awesome channel, especially after Clemson wins.
Yeah. I hope you'll drop by and say hello. Hope you'll subscribe, even if you hate Clemson. I hope everybody drops in. And hey, if you saw me on this channel, let me know that you saw me. You saw me here, and because it's always nice to hear from people who's like, "Hey, I saw you on Trey's channel." There you go. And I came over, so yeah, it's always fun.
Yeah, really appreciate it, Brian, and hopefully it's a good, respectful game. And excited to hear your content, and I'll try to look out for that prediction.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Trey, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure to just get to talk football, even with someone who pulls for the team that I'm quite sure is about to beat our tails. So
there you go. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks again for coming on. Make sure to like, subscribe, share the podcast. And as Brian says, it's for free. So, yeah, support the channel. So, really appreciate you coming on. Thanks again.
Glad to be here.